Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today is Monday, which means it's time for an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a gun and customization for me to use. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below, letting me know what kind of weapon and accessories you'd like me to run with, and I will pick one of the top rated comments for the next episode. Today's top comment comes from Omich, who says the Dutch Army / anti-terrorism loadout with an M4 carbine as the HK416. Not really sure why we're not just using an HK416, but it's okay. I like the M4. Anyway, we're going to use a holographic sight on there with a suppressor, a G18 with no attachments on it, a small anti-tank mine, M67 frag grenade, bayonet, and the engineer perk. Destroy vehicles and chop people up. Hope to get chosen. Now, I played a lot of TDM so that I could get some good infantry kill streaks, but then I switched over to Conquest a lot to get those vehicle kills. So don't worry, I'm actually going to make use of the small and anti-tank weaponry on this kit. I love the look of the M4 in this game. It's too bad it's only a burst fire weapon. I think I've mentioned this a couple times before, but it would be really cool if they added a new version of an M4 to the game, kind of like Battlefield Hardline has done. It would be really cool to see something like maybe a Mark 18 in this game, like a more advanced modern M4 with full auto capabilities. Nonetheless, I love the model of the M4, and when you put an EOTech on there, it's just got that classic Army feel. Plus, the suppressor makes us look like we're on some sort of special forces unit. Now, I found that the suppressor actually didn't really affect my gameplay too much with the M4 because I generally don't engage at too far a range with the M4. I just don't like the burst fire mechanics, and I feel like it's mostly a medium range effective weapon where the suppressor muzzle velocity reduction doesn't really hurt it too much. So at longer ranges, moving targets, the suppressor is going to be very hard to hit those moving targets, but medium range, it's pretty much good to go. Also, I've been playing a lot of Star Wars Battlefront, so the slow muzzle velocity in that game has kind of prepared me for some of the slow traveling bullet speeds with suppressed weapons. Now, Caspian Border is a fun map to sneak around on, and if you can make your suppressed weapons work, then Conquest is a great place to use them, especially if you're kind of lone wolfing it a bit. You're not hanging out with people shooting unsuppressed weapons, drawing enemy attention, because I'm able to engage most of those people on point there without them even realizing where the fire's coming from. They're taking cover on the wrong side of the boxes. Now, C point is a very fun point to sneak around on, especially in the beginning of the game while there's still trees there and you can kind of hide in the shadows a bit more. You can see this server's got about 1,200 tickets, so by the end of the round, C point is not going to look like a forest anymore. It's going to look more like a rocky desert. But at the moment, it's actually really fun to sneak around, and the suppressor is just perfect for sneaking and staying hidden in the shadows. Now, I didn't get much use out of the anti-tank mines during this loadout. I placed a lot of them down in key points, but I didn't get any kills with them. I generally don't really run with anti-tank mines because as a tank driver, I see those tank mines all the time. The only time I usually get killed by them is when somebody actually sneaks up behind my tank and I don't notice them, and then they put the mines down right behind me and I back up into them. But if they've been laid down on a point already, I will spot them no problem. I use thermal optics a lot when running with a tank, or infrared optics rather, and it just points them out for me. So it's generally very easy to find them, especially if you're spamming the Q button and the spot button and you're used to people trying to mine your tank. Now, I've been thinking about the weapon balance for burst fire weapons a bit more in Battlefield, and I think they're quite effective weapons to use, especially on console, because of the auto aim and the weapon recoil compensation that happens automatically on console. On PC, I'm just not a big fan of burst fire weapons. I know some people are, but let's face it, they're not really going to compete with the full auto weapons that can fire just as accurately. And when playing Star Wars Battlefront, it really occurred to me that, hey, you can make a burst fire weapon more effective than a full auto weapon. You just have to kind of play around with the stats a bit. And Battlefield seems to sort of be locked into these realistic stats where they try and replicate the exact realistic rate of fire of weapons. And unfortunately, this doesn't work as well for creating game balance and creating weapons that are interesting and fun to use and worth using. Where in Star Wars Battlefront, they can kind of screw around with the stats and make them do whatever because it's a fictional thing. They don't have realistic rate of fires that they have to worry about. And what they've done with the burst fire weapons in Battlefront is they've made the actual burst itself shoot rounds so quickly that it's very, very effective if you can land those shots from a burst fire mode. They also make it so that the weapons shoot about 5 rounds per burst, and this gives you a much more effective like single damage burst fire potential, whereas if you have to do multiple bursts all the time to kill your opponent, you're generally speaking, at least in Battlefield 4, going to lose out to the full auto weapons. Now I don't know how they would balance it in BF4. Maybe you give the M4 something like 1,000 round rate of fire when you shoot it in the burst fire mode, or maybe even exaggerate how many bullets that it can fire per burst, because I think it's locked into 3 right now, which is only moderately effective. I mean, the only way you're going to kill your opponent with 3 shots is if they're not wearing body armor, and you get 2 shots to the body and 1 shot to the head, so you land with all your shots in the perfect spot. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. I mean, unless you get multiple shots to the head with 1 burst, but that's incredibly hard to do because of the recoil. Now back to some Caspian border strategy. We're pushing D point here, which is definitely the most important point in Caspian border. You can launch out attacks against C point, against B point. You can go all the way back to E point if you would like. It's got Overwatch on C point and a few of the other points here. It's just an incredibly important point to push and capture and try and hold. I mean, sometimes tanks go up here, but I wouldn't recommend it since you can mine it up and just rocket them, and there's plenty of places to hide. Now, one of the most annoying things about this point is that you can hide spawn beacons anywhere. There's a huge underground complex. You can hide them in some of the tunnels under there. You can hide them around the outskirts. You can parachute in on the point, so it becomes very difficult to maintain. In fact, most points are hard to maintain in Conquest because of the spawn beacon mechanics. It's something that I kind of wish they would reduce a bit, maybe only allow squad leaders to have spawn beacons as they did in some of the earlier Battlefield games. Now, if I was modifying this class just to fight around D point, or if I was creating a class to play Caspian border and control D point, I would without question play the recon class, put a spawn beacon down below or up above on the tower, and also put a tugs there so that you can spot people all over the hill. If you put a tugs down below in the tunnels, it'll still spot people on top of the hill, and they won't know where the tugs is. They won't really know that they're being spotted, so it's incredibly useful, and that could be one of the most effective ways to just hold and maintain the point. Now, as far as general Conquest play goes, this class is pretty darn useful. I mean, the Burstfire M4 is never going to be my first choice of weaponry, but the fact that it is suppressed is going to allow me to sneak around the map a lot more and still do pretty well kill-wise. The SMAW, of course, is a bread and butter weapon. I've got over 500 kills with that thing, working on 500 kills with the RPG now. This loadout, however, is something that I probably wouldn't want to use on some of the bigger Conquest maps that are just wide open and have long stretches of open land where you have to engage people at like 100 meters away or further frequently. Dragon Valley, for example, is probably going to be a map where I wouldn't want an M4 suppressed as a primary. It's going to be really hard to engage people at long range. You can try and close the distance, but you try closing the distance over a big, wide open area of land. It's certainly not that easy, especially when there's tanks and helicopters and airplanes everywhere. You've got a lot of things that can kill you, so this is a kit that you're probably going to want to use on maps that have more opportunities to travel or transition from cover to cover. Now, hopefully Dragon Valley is out by the time we do the next loadout. I know it's in the review process right now. In fact, it might be out by the time this video launches. I'm recording this video over the weekend, so if loadout launches Monday and Dragon Valley's out by Monday, then maybe we can do some Dragon Valley themed loadouts. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this loadout video. Please let me know in the comments what you'd like me to run with for next week, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing out.